Do it. Yeah. 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 Finish it. Yeah. All right. Sub-Zero. Let's go.
I'm reviewing EA Sports UFC for the PS4 and Xbox One. I've been waiting for this for a while, mainly because it's the summertime and there's not a lot of games out for the newest line of systems. This is jumping out at the right time, but did it jump out too soon? Is it rushed? Polished? What is it? Well, it's a little bit of both. If you want to talk about the graphics, this is the first EA Sports game to really show off the Ignite engine. We've seen NBA Live and other things that claim to use the Ignite engine, but this is the one here that you can truly see what they were talking about this whole time. The flesh, the sweat, the wear and tear that fighters go through, the way they throw strikes, their facial expressions, receiving hits, the celebratory animations. Pre-fight, post-fight. Everything looks insanely real, guys. Speaking of movements and animations, the stand-up game is on point. The parry system from MMA, returns, sway, get out of the way of attacks. There's power hits, power kicks, pulling back on the controller and hitting it, forward on it and hitting the attack. A lot of different variations that people can use, especially depending on what superstar you're using. The way the strikes are thrown, they just look so good. The only thing I will say, it is done by people who made Fight Night. In this sport, some of the hits you receive in succession, somebody will be knocked out immediately, and I think some fights on this game, people take way too many hits. At the same time, I guess it is kind of balanced, because I would sure hate to go online and get KO'd by someone was not even near your level, but they were just fortunate. The ground game is cool. At first it seems pretty basic, but when you go through the different challenges and stuff like that, you'll see that it's actually rather complex, just like stand-up is. Making transitions. Of course, if you have somebody who specializes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to be able to pull off more stuff. So I highly recommend going through all the tutorials you can. I think the game could actually do a better job of explaining certain maneuvers, but there's videos around the net you can check for further tutorials. I recommend really grinding and working at it, because when you do that, it pays off and you will have an advantage over somebody online, big time. Online play is pretty fun. You get a different experience each time fighting somebody that's very smooth. Submissions, for me, no MMA game has really nailed until now. Just like the rest of the gameplay, it's all about gauging your stamina. If a person has low stamina, they're going to be a lot easier to tap out. If you're on offense, you got to move the stick where your opponent cannot defend. If you're on defense, then you have to stop that person, whatever zone that person has their stick in. You have to move it exactly at that spot, counteract it. It's a lot that goes on. Again, something you need to go through a tutorial to fully master, but once you do, it's just like real martial arts. You have to work at some things in this game. You just can't jump in and pick up and play. When you work at certain things, it pays off. And that's what I like. It's less of a game of chance. Other games of submissions, you just mash the buttons as fast as possible. They eliminated that issue. The other thing I noticed too is playing through the different weight divisions. The gameplay speed is different. That's realistic. Bantamweight women's, man, they're fighting fast. You can make some nice battles, or you want to fight in heavyweights, Cain Velasquez, make some big hits happen. Really, the only other mode aside from going through the challenges is career. You make your own player, send him through the Ultimate Fighter, take him throughout his career, and then you retire. Depending on the damage you take from fights, there's a meter and it carries over. So you have to make sure that bar stays low, protect yourself, and you can last a lot longer in the ring than other people will. But overall, career mode is dull. A constant barrage of live action videos from fighters, either cheering you on or telling you have a fight. But the thing is, when you hit a certain point in the career, you'll start to see the same videos over and over again. And depending on what you did in a fight, 3 or 4 of those same videos you've been seeing over and over and over again. And also, aside from the graphics, there's a lot of presentational cues that they missed that UFC 3 still has the one up on. In career mode, you could do a post-fight interview, You had a lot more training options. Pick who you wanted to fight. This, they give you a contract, but then there's no other choices. It's just you have to pick that specific fight. Participating in a pay-per-view. There used to be a montage. They'd put your created player within that montage and make it like you were truly a part of that pay-per-view. The commentary, they have stories about your fighter, how they did in their last fight. Little touches that bring you into the UFC experience all the way. And I expect a lot more on the presentation from EA, because that's one thing throughout their games. If they don't get the gameplay down in some of their titles, they for sure get the presentation. So that's why I'm extra disappointed out of this company than I would from most. You just keep fighting, train a little bit, but you could also get so good that you don't even have to train. You could just bypass the train because you get points for winning fights also. UFC 3 had a lot of modes that this does not. They had a survival mode, make your own pay-per-view, reenact classic pay-per-view matches. There should have been more food on the table. And we know DLC is coming. Maybe the DLC will introduce modes that should have been here to begin with. Maybe not. People, if you're looking for a game that will do you right during the summer, I think UFC will fill that void for a little bit. Just understand, if you're not gaming online with your boys, you might not get as much mileage as possible. They know they could tighten up on that, EA. You guys know that. Hook it up. There's still time. There's also some minor glitches I ran into during the gameplay, but they didn't pop up all the time. Just little silly things. So I expect to see some patches along the way. I expect to see more modes. But for what we have right now, while not perfect, it's a solid fighting engine matched by supreme graphics. So I'm going to have to give this here UFC 3.5
Fuck.
out of 5.